We must stop the terror. Now watch this drive.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
Welcome to another episode of the Uncle Hack Podcast. Glad you are here with us. There's plenty of the news to cover. You know, that is just the endless cycle of entertainment. We love the news here, and some good news for you. Upcoming stand-up dates December 15th in Calgary, Alberta. And then December 17th in Torrance, California with Brian Holtzman. All the California dates that I'm about to mention are with Mr. Brian Holtzman. I'm sure there are plenty of folks from California interested in Canadian news. That's why they tap into this podcast. December 17th, Torrance, California. December 18th, Irvine, California. December 19th, Oxnard, California. December 21st, Covina, California. Then the New Year's party, December 31st in Castlegar, British Columbia, January 24th in Slave Lake, Alberta, February 25th in Fort Mac, Alberta, February 7th and 8th in Hamilton, Ontario with Brian Holtzman, March 28th in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, April 12th in Lloydminster, Alberta. I believe it's April 4th, also in Drayton Valley. DangerCatsShop.com for tickets. Also, you want to support this podcast? Do you like this show? Do you enjoy this show? Patreon.com/DangerCat69 for exclusive episodes and a great way to support the podcast. You listen every week for free, don't you, you tightwad? But you can't hand me over for the cost of a beer. You can keep the show alive. Do you feel guilty yet about just tuning in for free every week on this podcast? Do you? Well, if you're feeling guilty and you're feeling frivolous with the shekels, head on over to patreon.com/DangerCat69. Fucking help the show out. Getting into it right away, we got Canadian news. That's what we're covering today. There's a few outside stories that we're going to cover, but it is, right now, Canada is really in the public eye when it comes to American media. It seems that Americans are really zeroing in on what's going on up here. It's quite interesting. We've kind of flew under the radar for quite some time, but now every move of our prime minister is under scrutiny. Many Americans have spent, I'd say the latter half of 8 years looking at our prime, oh, he's so gorgeous. And now all of a sudden, the truth starts to rise. The truth starts to come out. And I was just watching this very interesting piece from the CBC, The National, to be exact, about how politicians are under more danger than ever. It's a quite interesting watch, seeing these folks come out and try and play victim as if they didn't subjugate you to 2 years of your life being locked indoors, meanwhile having no medical evidence whatsoever on putting something into your body. And now we are seeing the psychological effects of these experiments that you put on your population. Now you have to deal with the circumstances of psychopaths out in the streets. You release them. Remember, you could have kept us indoors all you wanted, but you fell to public pressure of one of the most peaceful protests that has ever existed on the planet. And now we are out and about again, and we are catching you in public, and you are on the receiving end of a tongue lashing. Now our Canadian politicians feeling the wrath of the violence of America, similar to a CEO of a major insurance company? No, not exactly. Do I wish violence on them? I refuse to answer that. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to watch people get hurt. I don't like that. But when you fuck with people at the capacity that you have, you push them to a point where they feel cornered. And some people, when they're cornered, don't just cower and allow you to just impose your power all over their livelihoods. And now you're dealing with the consequences. Now you are. Similar to how, like, when I say roast battle jokes, I then, you can have freedom of speech, but not freedom of consequence, is what I've been hearing for the past year. You can say whatever you want, but it's not freedom of consequence. Yeah, well, they went around and the actions that they used against the population, now the consequences are coming to pay the piper. And unfortunately, it's not as joyful as you imagined. You thought that, you hear these stories of like the Vietnam soldiers returning back to America or going even into Vietnam, thinking that they're going to be celebrated and walking down the streets similar to World War II soldiers that liberated the people all across Europe. When in reality, it wasn't necessarily that, right? And now you thought that you were saving the public, but meanwhile, we all seen through your bullshit. It was all in your own interest financially. Many of you became very wealthy that were sitting in office while lockdowns and all of that were happening, and it's all coming out in the news. Now, most of us are living below the means of the poverty line. These Band-Aids on broken bones of like, we're going to remove GST for 2 months. How does that sound, folks? Doesn't quite soothe the hurt and the pain of being broke. And we're supposed to, like, when you do something like that, the expectation, I believe, in their minds is that we're supposed to applaud them as they leave the House of Commons. But instead, guys like Marco Mendocino are getting spat on in public, which, you kind of had that coming. You sit and you call a half of the population racist, misogynist, all of these slanderous words used to destroy someone's character, and now you have to see them in public, and it's like, oh, I don't know what I did. You do know what you did, and now you're feeling the wrath of the public's perception of you, finally. In this piece, a few of them are like, the one lady was like, I've never been called the C word. Well, that's unfortunate, because if you hung out with me, I would have called you that many of times. But it's never been scarier for a politician. It's never been scarier for a politician, because they are now on the receiving end of online threats, online, catcalling. Well, do your job. If people were prosperous and wealthy and thriving, then I don't think you would be doing your job and you wouldn't be feeling this. If people felt like you were helping them further their lives rather than your own selfishness taking over and you furthering your own financial status, you're benefiting yourself financially, you would then be celebrated in the streets as people could feel the power of the purchasing right in their wallets. You would see people excited to be Canadian. And right now, it's not so much that. Even in news stories right now, very depressing time to be a so-called Canadian, isn't it? A very troubling time, as they would say, to be a Canadian. Even to celebrate what we deem Canadian is being very, it's almost being demonized. This is a very interesting story coming out of Markham, Ontario, as a father has a outdoor rink in the heart of the neighborhood, but the city now is going to fine him upwards of $350,000 if he does not take it down. Now, meanwhile, this is in his own backyard, but what is more Canadian than having an outdoor rink in your backyard for the wintertime? And he went the extra step. Now, this is a gorgeous rink, I will say. A very beautiful rink that he's built in his backyard. And I imagine a lot of the kids in the neighborhood would come over and they'd have shinny games. This structure was erected during lockdown, so that way his child could still play hockey, which, you know what? Why are we not celebrating dads that do this type of shit for their kids? You know, I'm going to tell a little story about a family member of mine. Many of you who are OGs of the podcast know of this gentleman, but he goes by Hooven. And so Hockey Alberta has decided that after initiation or Timbits hockey, that they're going to continue playing half-ice hockey. Now, reasons being unknown. I believe it's more of it's more to do so with squeezing more profit out of hockey associations across the province, where the child then is unable to develop and play the game in full ice. And Hooven went to war with Hockey Alberta, which I respect. All of these organizations drive me up the fucking wall. These boards are built of like just grotesque losers. With no interest in a child's development in the sport of hockey. Any sport or organization, there is a board of directors that sit and be like, we're Hockey Alberta, we represent all of hockey. Why wouldn't we? And then they put in these rules and regulations every year to justify their income. Sit around meeting after meeting to make life more hell for those that just want to enjoy themselves in the sport of hockey. So they have decided that they're going to continue half-ice hockey going into, I think, what's after initiation, novice or Adam, whatever name of the league. I assume they've probably changed it because someone found it offensive that they aren't novice hockey players, they're developing. Some fat woman with a bowl cut sitting there justifying her position, never played the game of hockey in her life, but took some goddamn course in a university that you know, is, she'd be a great fit for this organization. It's some Nepo hire. Anyways, getting that off my chest. He had then decided that we're not going to do that. So went outside of Hockey Alberta, organized his own little league down there in southern Alberta, got a number of teams, scheduled all the ice time, so that way Hockey Alberta could not profit anymore, which I respect. Now, similar to this father, he wants to, give his son the world, just like my cousin who wants kids to develop in the game of hockey. This wasn't selfish by any means. We need more guys like that. Fellas, I'm telling you, you want purpose? Go out there and make something of yourself. Even if it is a small, gesture that goes unrecognized. Do it. The more we stand up against this nonsense like we've seen in New York City, they didn't give it. That guy took a fucking bullet to the back of the head, and they continued on with their meetings. So the more we just chip away at it and just tell these people to go fuck themselves, these board of directors, all these losers that just try and justify their position as if it's like, like they're solving hunger. Some of these people think that they are solving hunger by removing, by putting a divider in the middle of a hockey rink so that way they can have more kids playing and we can profit more off of it. It thoroughly just fucking drives me up the wall, these people. But even a small action like that, to know that people will stand against it, shows that they aren't as powerful as they thought. And just think, if one man can do this, imagine 10 of us together. Imagine 10 guys getting together and being like, fuck them, we're going to do what we want. If more people had that attitude, there would be a revolution that wouldn't require any bloodshed whatsoever. If more men just had a spine and gave a fuck, you know? And as I like this gent that let's get into this story, because it does irritate me that this guy puts up, and then you got neighbors are like, oh, well, they're making too much noise. Shut the fuck up. You're dying. Watch the kids play hockey. Have a hot toddy. Watch the game of shinny. Is it that hard? You got to have a stick up your ass your whole life? Did you forget that you're a child as well? You were a child once as well? Did you forget that? Is your Alzheimer's kicked in so heavy at the ripe age of 62 that you forgot that you had enjoyment and joy as a child, but now you just exist? I'm like, oh, the world is shit. Yeah, that's why you go and watch the kids have fun so you can remember what it felt like. But instead, well, I'm trying to watch the evening news and I'm hearing hockey pucks clank against some boards. I'd put one right through your fucking kitchen window. Just a howitzer right through the kitchen window. Ring it off your skull like that piano player in the slap shot. Remember that? Don't ever play Lady of Spain again. You'd have to wear a jofa just to flip eggs in the morning, because I'd put one head high right over that window, right above the kitchen sink. I'd board it up. I'd put a steel plate over that. Every time I see you going to rinse out your coffee cup, I'd put one right between the eyes. You'd have to wear a bird cage every morning just to put a little coffee mate in the Folgers. Speaking of which, have a little sip of coffee, gents. Let's listen to this. Let's gather with one another and tune in. Where did you go? Oh. Why is that not appearing? There we go. Oh, boy.
Rink in Markham.
The owner dropping his glove.
Battle over a massive backyard rink in Markham.
The owner dropping his gloves with the city, duking it out in what's been a long face-off over the outdoor amenity. CTV's Natalie Johnson reports.
You have the rink done by a company called My Backyard Rinks.
Martin Ross is the first to admit that his backyard rink,
The glycol runs through those lines right there.
is a cut above the standard shinny shanty.
It's a beautiful outdoor rink that's kind of done properly. It's not your typical, 2x4 boards with a tarp thrown down.
A hockey haven in the back half of his massive backyard that has become the subject of
Beautiful rink. Look at this rink. Look at the structure that is in the backyard of this gentleman. This gentleman's house has a beautiful rink. I'd imagine all the kids get together. They have a great time with one another. Great time. Imagine that. Imagine you, a Canadian child. Your father is just such a great man that he builds you a fucking rink. We're not talking about just throwing a tarp down with a couple 2x4s. This guy built a goddamn hockey rink in the backyard. Oh, God, it's just like, why can't we celebrate dudes like this? Why are we not celebrating the bros that just give a shit? But instead, you have the fucking, well, you can't have that backyard. City officials say, suck my fucking hog. Why don't you? Why don't you come over here and plant your tulips on my schmeckle? Fuck you. We're going to fine you $320,000. Ooh, scary. That's what you got to do. You got to mock these fools.
With both neighbors and the city.
Nightmare.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Ross lives in Markham's scenic Unionville, and his home has heritage designation. And so when he put up the rink during the pandemic without permission,
I did this
Attaboy.
for my kids.
it wasn't long
Hell
before the
yeah.
city stepped in.
They are indeed the 600-pound gorilla to fight against.
Some neighbors
Fuck 'em.
incensed about Ross's overhaul of the heritage property, along with
This is how men that constructed the Killdozer start. This is the start of a villain arc in their eyes. You know, this is the beginning of it. You keep fucking with me. I want to build a rink. Well, you need a permit for that. You need a permit, then the city has to vote on it. Then we all get together and we decide whether or not you can have a hockey rink, because we already got hockey rinks. Fuck you. Build the rink. Build a rink so goddamn beautiful, so fucking gorgeous. All the, imagine all the smiles, all the good times that the kids, you're only a child for so long, and then you have these fucking joy-sucking mutants that gather around a table once a week, twice a week, and say, well, the property taxes aren't, and they just want to suck the joy. They just have like a fucking heroin needle in your arm, but instead of injecting fun, they suck every ounce of joy of your life out. All of them. Just vampires, energy vampires. They roll around. What's that? Are you smiling? Did I remind you that you're late on your property taxes? And like I said, this is the beginning of how people they buy a bulldozer and cement themselves in it and start destroying public officials, property, businesses, and then kill themselves to have nothing. You know what? Just cause as much damage as possible and just take the fucking high road out. And I respect that. I respect that. Fuck with me, why don't you?
With the noise and all the errant pucks that they say has come with the rink.
Look at this guy. He takes a photo of all the pucks were in my backyard. You know when the ball would go over the fence of that one grumpy neighbor? You can't have the ball go in my yard. And then as you got a little older, those guys you fuck with even harder because you know that you have a direct line to their irritation bone. So what do? You fucking annoy them even more. You annoy them even more, as you should.
This gentleman has completely destroyed what was a gorgeous backyard.
Oh, yeah. Is it your backyard? See, these are the guys. This is the guy right here. This is the guy right here. Imagine that. You're on the backdoor rink and you just wire a howitzer and level this fucking cunt. And I say that with every ounce of, of emotion that you can process into that cunt. Look at him. Eyebrows. You can only imagine having a beautiful backyard like that and putting a hockey rink in it. My wife pegs me every Thursday night because the respect has gone right out the window. I can only come if my wife is imposing just tenacity on my asshole. And I come a quart because I am a weak, inferior male that just wants to destroy every ounce of joy in the neighborhood. And you know what? My cock gets hard when my wife tells me that I'm nothing but a worthless piece of shit and she's sucking off my best friend.
Full of greenery that supported privacy and
Suck
quiet
my dick.
for the surrounding neighbors.
Fucking, I don't like this guy.
He went ahead and tore down massive 100-year-old trees and has turned it into a parking lot.
Ross admits he...
You know what's funny though is like just up the road from Markham, you could walk into this is what city councilors are worried about, is a man putting up a fucking hockey rink in his backyard. Meanwhile, you can mosey into Toronto or Brampton, whatever goddamn Mississauga, and go smash the front out of a jewelry store and rob it blind, and everybody goes, wow, what an outstanding citizen. What an outstanding citizen. But God forbid, you give some form of an outlet to youth in the neighborhood to come on through. You know, ice times are expensive. They're expensive, and you're tapping into our profits by not renting out the ice and having the kids, plus their safety precautions. Do you have insurance? Do you have insurance on that rink? Is there a supervised adult back there? Or did you take the course to make sure that you can supervise children? Huh? How do we know that the safety of the kids is coming first? We need you to take this $400 course to ensure that if a child by any means gets hurt, that you're willing and able to help said child. Ugh. Oh, I hate these fucking people. I hate these people, especially that fucking prick just before. That's the guy that I look at in public, and, you know, he's probably got, I can nail it right here. Nail it right fucking here. He has been working a desk job, probably doing some form of accounting, you know, never really made it that far into the company. He wasted his whole life, and every day a piece of who he was when he was younger gets stripped from him. And now he spends his time worrying about trees. 100-year-old tree. He's somehow become an environmentalist in the, you know, golden years of his life. And somehow trees are the thing that he gravitates towards. And when a neighbor takes down a tree, it's just like, it's, oh God, a piece of me left with that tree, similar to like as my life. I've watched it flash before my eyes doing accounting for a fucking, you know, probably it's some company that sells just the dumbest shit imaginable. The dumbest shit imaginable at a hardware store. And I know that's not stupid, but you get where I'm going with this. I'm a chartered accountant. I bought this house 20 years ago, and the neighborhood was nothing like this. And then all of a sudden, these families start moving in here, and it gets loud, and hockey pucks are in my backyard. Every spring when the snow melts, I have to collect pucks in my backyard because the kids, and they're making noise. I'm having a day. If you haven't noticed, I am having a fucking day, but I'm having fun.
He was wrong to cut down the trees, but has been fighting for his right to the rink. 2 years ago, a superior court ruled that the city of Markham can legally step in to remove it. Ross's recent attempt at an injunction was dismissed.
Mr. Ross has felt all the way along that he's above the law, that bylaws don't apply to him, that he doesn't have to behave in.
You know, this is why they win. This is why they win. It's because of assholes like this. You know, me, if that news camera came around me and be like, what do you think about that? I think it's great. What about the city coming down? The city, you know what? I got two balls in a shaft. They can figure out which one they want to kiss first. How about that? That's what I would say. The news puts a camera in front of my face. What do you think about your neighbor having a backdoor rink? I think it's wonderful. What do you think about it? And I put it back on them. What do you think about it, huh? Well, the city says they're going to fine them $320,000. Oh, really? Then I would say something crazy, so that way I draw the attention to me, so that way the kids can have an, oh yeah, well that'd be really weird. You know, it'd be really weird if I decided to put some form of explosives in a backpack and walk in there one day. Huh? Wouldn't that be weird? That'd be weird. That'd be such a coincidence that one day I just walk in and all of a sudden the let me find the neighbors that have a hockey rink department all of a sudden just got the fucking windows blown out of it, wouldn't it? And then where's Hack? Oh, that's right. He's in 1,400 pieces because he decided to do some ISIS tactics down at the city hall because they're taking away the goddamn rink for the kids. And I would die a martyr. I would die a martyr. They would put, you know, every little renegade hockey fucking player out there would look at me and be like, you know what? He's a real one. He killed himself over an outdoor rink. He killed himself over an outdoor rink. First off, I'd go to that neighbor's house and I'd repetitively kick him in the balls or his pussy. His prolapse asshole from getting pegged every Friday night. A glass of Merlot, and what do you say? Should we dilate a little bit tonight, honey? Fucking loser. I'm on one today. I'm sorry, folks. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
Any civilized neighbor would behave.
A civilized neighbor? We don't want... Let's go back just a cunt here. What did he just say?
Was dismissed.
Mr. Ross has felt all the way along that he's above the law, that bylaws don't apply to him, that
even
he doesn't
his
have
voice.
to behave in a way that any civilized neighbor would.
No, we're done with civilized. We're done with civilized. You locked me in my house for 2 years. I haven't forgot it. You forced me to take something that I did not want to take just so I could go to restaurants and, all in the guise of health and safety. And I know once a week I think this gets brought up, but that's just the case with this podcast. Every week, I'm going to fucking remind you that these sons of bitches stripped 2 years of your goddamn life because of fags like that sit back and be like, well, if he would just act like a civilized neighbor, oh yeah, well, treat me like a civilian and I'll start acting like one. Get the fuck out of my goddamn backyard. I paid for the property. I should be able to do whatever the fuck I want. If I want to put a fun house in the goddamn backyard, I should be able to. I'm fired up now. Look what you did, CTV. Look what you did. Look what you did. This is your fault. Because if you go and report on losers like this, you give them attention, and now I'm irritated. Now I gotta go run my car into a convenience store just to feel something. Just to feel something. I can't jack off anymore because I feel nothing. I feel nothing. Now I gotta go drive my fucking car down the street and hit those parking meters. Every single one. And I'll load them up. And then I drive, I melt them. I melt them down. And I'm slowly creating a statue. Actually, I'm gonna barricade myself in a Honda Civic because I can't afford a D8 Cat. And then I'm going to drive that fucking thing into an MLA's office. They won't be there. I'm not looking to injure anybody, but I'm just looking to cause a little ruckus. These are all jokes, by the way. These are all jokes. This is a humor podcast. This is the ramblings of an irritated, uncivilized neighbor. This is from the perspective as if I lived in that neighborhood and how I would feel. I even like the other day, this is the prime example of just mind your own fucking business. Mind your own fucking business, Snowing outside. The kids can't play. It's a blizzard out. It's at nighttime. I go in the hallway. Kids are, I'm living in a condo again. And kids are up and down the hallway on their scooters, Kids are up and down they're rambunctious. I can only imagine how the parents feel. They're probably hopped up on candy. I think this was shortly after Halloween. So they're hopped up on candy, zooting up and down the hallway. And I could have been an asshole. I could have been a prick and be like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? And been upset about this. But you want to know what I did? I simply shut the fuck up and I let the kids be kids. Let them enjoy themselves. Burn off some steam. Looks like they would rather be fucking scooting up and down the hallway than playing video games, and I'd much prefer that than a bunch of fat kids running around the goddamn country. Wouldn't you? Don't you want that? Don't you want the kids to be healthy? These are the same goddamn people too that say some stupid shit like, well, why don't the kids play outside anymore? And they have the audacity to say some shit like, I can't believe the neighbor is uncivilized and would put up a rink like that without abiding by all the bylaws. Bylaws? Bylaws?
It's been stressful on me. It's been stressful on my kids.
The city of Markham telling CTV News in a statement that its lawyers and Ross have reached an agreement to restore the property to pre-2021 conditions. The remediation work will be carried out by the homeowner. Ross says he's preparing to reluctantly remove the rink.
Would we have Wayne Gretzky today if Walter Gretzky didn't build the backyard rink that he built?
Amen.
An unpermitted passion project that pitted hockey against heritage. A rink rift resolved after years on ice. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
Very depressing end to this story. I'm sorry to bring the mood down like that. Sorry to bring the mood down like that. And that's just the way it has to go. That's just the way it has to go. They got to get their goddamn way. Be ungovernable. I implore you to be a little ungovernable, not to the sense of like, I know I just went on some giant rant and probably put myself in some form of trouble by admitting that, I would barricade myself into a Honda Civic and drive it into an MLA's office. This is all, blown out of proportion. That's what the show is, okay? It's a moron with a microphone. Plus, who's taking anybody serious with the name Uncle Hack? Anybody with a name like that? Look at me, for Christ's sakes. Look at me, for Christ's sakes. Do I look like I'm motivated to do any of that? I don't even own a welder. And I don't possess the vehicle that could withstand the impact driving into a bunch of parking meters only to melt them down. I don't have any of the tools to construct such items, to do the project, whatever. But that's what we're dealing with, and then it goes on. We go further down this rabbit hole.
A small Ontario.
And it gets worse. This is where the ungovernable part comes into play, ladies and gentlemen. We go to my favorite city, CTV Winnipeg, and we are going to discuss an Ontario community fined $15,000 for refusing to celebrate Pride Month. I know. What the fuck is wrong with you? You don't want to celebrate Pride Month? Do you? Pride Month, Pride Year, Pride Days? Is that the type of human being you want to be? Now, I know that I just took a very, very hard stance on having backdoor rinks throughout the communities of Canada, but you don't want to celebrate Pride Month? I would pin that man down out in Markham and said for a whole month during December, even with Christmas, if you don't paint a goddamn pride flag in the middle of that rink, I'll strangle you. Because your neighbor over there gets pegged by his wife. And if that isn't in that acronym, there's something probably in there that is a representation of men being pegged, just weak, inferior men being pegged by their fat gunt of a wife. Imagine being pegged and you feel a belly before the cock. Oh boy. Imagine being pegged and you can feel the gut hit you. Oh boy, that is disturbing, isn't it? That is just disturbing to think about. And what's even more disturbing is that this town is going to the lengths that it is.
A small Ontario town has a big fine to pay. The township of Emo, located near the Minnesota border, will have to pay thousands of dollars to a local 2S LGBTQ+ organization after the town refused to recognize Pride Month. Standing by live in studio with more on this.
What is going on with those eyebrows? Jesus Christ. What is going on with those eyebrows? I can't focus on the story here because it looks like you took a paint pen. What is going on at CTV News in Winnipeg? Who is the makeup artist there? Fucking Bobo the Clown? Dear Lord. Anyways.
Says CTV's Alexander Hollick. Alexander, how much money are we talking about?
A total of $15,000, Marilee. And that's not all. The mayor and the CAO were also ordered to take human rights training. The township of Emo and
$15,000 and you have to, the township, so that means it's less than what, 7,000 people? A township? The township of Emo. Hilarious. Where are you? I cannot see the gays. We've been out here for days. I'm looking and I'm searching for the queers. Why aren't you here? We need a pride flag in the town. And if I'm correct, if I had listened to a few segments yesterday discussing this, there isn't even a flagpole in the town. This is why the left is losing so many people when it comes to this. When it comes to this right here, this gay movement. You know, we respect the gays of the 80s, 90s, because they fought for something. They just wanted to get married and go to fucking dance clubs. And they'd get the shit kicked out of them for that. The brakes beat off their asses. They had to become these tough, like, you remember, you've seen some of these gay dudes from back in the day. Big, jacked, like, you look at them, they were handsome. They were handsome guys. And you can't deny it, you know. Those bears from back in the day, they were just mutants, jacked to the gills, like Hulk Hogan jacked. Fighting straight dudes every weekend so they could go suck cock at like some underground warehouse away from the public eye. And they would do that every weekend. And all they asked was like, please, can we just get married? And then finally, we came in like, yeah, I guess. The fuck do we care? Get married, have fun. And they're like, thank you. Thank you. I know a few gay guys that if you hung out with them, you would have no goddamn idea. They're more bro than most of the bros that I know. Not a fucking clue. Few of my gay buddies are like that. You know, they dress straighter than I do. Yet, they just, hey, just let me exist. That's all. I fucking got something. I got that gene in my head that I look at a vagina and I puke. And I'm like, I'm the same way, but I just look at a dick and I puke more. Look at this. Like even the sign, look at the sign of the town. The sign of the super trucks at Emo Speedway, August 6th at 7 p.m. What more? How straighter do you need to get? Straighter do you need to get? Oh, that's nice. I finally got rid of the clipping in my headphones. Can you hear? How straighter do you need? And then you see that and you're like, you know what they need is a Pride Month. Read the room. Plus, who the fuck, how many gays are in Emo, Ontario? If I'm correct, it's like a town of like 500 people. It's like a goddamn hamlet. And then you want to run around, we need a Pride Month. No, you don't. Relax. Get out. This is exactly why it is turned into this just impose my thought, my nonsense on you, opposed to like inclusive. It's not even inclusivity. It's just you're running amok. You're running amok on these poor folks, and they're like, we don't want to participate in this. None of us are interested in participating in any of this. Meanwhile, you're really trying to just force this ideology on people, and they're like, no, we voted on it, fuck off. What do you mean, fuck off? And you go to the Human Rights Tribunal, which is hilarious because the mayor's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to the fucking course. I got other shit. I'm busy that day. I got to go to the super trucks in August. I'm going to go do that instead. I got to prepare for the super trucks at the Emo Speedway. So I think I'll take a rain check on the whole fucking learn about the gays for a whole day course. So anything else? They're like, well, you got to paint the side. We're not painting the sidewalks. Listen, property taxes are very low here. We're running on barely a budget. We're scraping by, for Christ's sakes. The last thing we're going to do is spend $10,000 to paint a sidewalk that's just going to piss off 99% of the town. What, the 1% of you are going to come and watch the paint go fucking dry? Is that what we're going to do? What are we going to, why? Do you need to paint the sidewalk? What is this? Just a display of like, look, we conquered this town, and all it took was like some old Christian guy to be like, fuck off. That's what the guy in Markham needed to do with the rink, is just be like, yeah, fuck off. Beat it, nerds.
Its mayor were handed a hefty fine.
Oh, now what?
By the Ontario
Now
Human
what?
Rights Tribunal last month.
Why am I
for
not hearing this now? I was hitting buttons.
refusing to
There we
recognize
go.
Pride Month and discriminating against a local 2S LGBTQ plus organization.
Go back.
Studio with more on this is CTV's Alexander Hollick. Alexander, how much money are we talking about?
$15,000.
$15,000, Marilee. And that's not all. The mayor and the CAO were also ordered to take human rights training. The township of Emo and its mayor were handed a
So
hefty
funny.
fine by the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal last month for refusing to recognize Pride Month and discriminating against a local 2S LGBTQ plus organization.
The explicit reason that they did not adopt our proclamation was obviously tied to the sexual orientation and gender identity issue.
It's hilarious because the only thing they're really hammering on is the real story behind this is the mayor came out. There's no straight flag, so we're not going to fly that either. And then they were like, oh, so this is discriminatory, and that's what they're running on with the Human Rights Tribunal. I was listening to Elevate podcast, another Canadian that dove into this Canadian YouTube channel. Sorry, dove into this, and he made some great points and dove into this much further than I ever would. And I was listening to him talk about it, and that was really their sticking point, is because the mayor came out and was like, there's no straight month, there's no straight Pride Month, and now all the well, see, it's discriminatory against the gays because he and that's what they were trying to hit him on, and he keeps refusing, which is hilarious because that's literally all you really have to do. What are they going to do? Garnish your wages? Start taking everything in cash, baby.
Issues attached to Pride.
Emo is located nearly 200 kilometers south of Kenora and has a population of just over 1,300 people.
Generally, this is a non-controversial thing, but it's not.
Yeah, okay. See, these little meek, just smug bastards. Generally, it's not a controversial thing. Well, you came into a town of 1,700 people and then started trying to throw your dick around, and you forgot that rural Canada is kind of like, can you guys fuck off? We've got other shit to worry about rather than a month of this. A month? You need a month? A month. What are we going to do for a month? The truck, the fucking, what the hell was it? It was the super trucks are a day. Yeah, there you go. The super trucks are one day at 7 p.m. Not even a day. At 7 p.m. the super trucks go from probably like 7 to what, 9:30, 10 p.m. The super trucks get a day, and the gays want a month in this town.
A non-controversial thing, but it's an important signal in a small community.
The dispute dates back to 2020. Borderland Pride requested that the town declare June as Pride Month and display a rainbow flag for a week. The resolution was brought forward at a May 12th council meeting by then Councillor Lincoln Dunn.
I had warned members of council that I was aware of the potential ramifications of not passing this bylaw.
But the bylaw didn't pass. The vote was 3-2 against, with Emo Mayor Harold McQuaker in opposition.
5 councillors, 3 nay, 2 yay, and then the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario decides to come in and be like, well, actually, what is this? Carrot.
There's no flag being flown for the other side of the coin. So that being said,
sorry, Harold, what's the other side of the coin?
Well, the other side of the coin, there's no flags being flown for the straight people.
In her decision, Ontario Human Rights Tribunal Vice Chair Karen Dawson called the mayor's remark demeaning and disparaging and said it constituted discrimination. She found council's vote to defeat the resolution to be discriminatory too.
I'm gratified that the tribunal made the decision that they did, which I believe was the right decision.
Now the town and the mayor have been ordered to pay Borderland a total of $15,000 to compensate for injury to dignity, feelings, and self-respect. In addition,
oh my God.
The mayor and chief administrative officer must complete human rights training.
It's not a great look for a rural community that is struggling to build its economy, to grow its population, and to...
I disagree. I think that so many people are kind of tired of being told that you need to accept this. I think a lot of people are kind of there right now. It's rural Canada. What did you expect? They're promoting the fucking super trucks coming to town on August 6th. What did you think was going to happen? Like, what really? If I went in, let's say I go into a gay bar. And right after Pride Month, I say, you know what, you sons of bitches. And I say that, you sons of bitches. You know what? For the next month, we're gonna have Monster Truck Super Dram Nazi Month. That's what we're gonna have in the form of inclusivity. You know, nothing bad's gonna happen, okay? But if you don't do it, I'm gonna fine you $15,000. It's gonna be the Super Truck Straight as Hell Nazi Bigot Month. And all we're gonna do is sexually harass women, tell racialized jokes, and rev cars in the parking lot of your gay bar. What do you say? And you say no. And then I go, oh, I can't believe the city isn't accepting of my small town culture. Mwah. Human Rights Tribunal, what are you going to do for me? And then expect everybody to be like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Like you stomped your feet to the principal's office, and even then, like they're like, well, okay, $15,000, and the guy's like, nah, I don't think so. I know this is a horrible take, and that's the whole purpose.
Attract and retain young people. So I'm optimistic that they're going to see this in a different light now that we're at the other side of this decision.
Yeah, no, you know, how many people were, yesterday the Google searches for...
So a second small...
Oops. The Google searches on properties in Emo, Ontario really skyrocketed after that. And all these gay people were thinking to themselves like, oh, why would this metropolis of Toronto that has a thriving gay community, why don't I go be a small fish in a big rainbow pond out in Emo, Ontario? Why don't I go do that? Why does nobody just think about this in the broader, just like leave those. You have a whole fucking city. You have gay districts in major cities all across the country. You have gay bars. You have everything you fucking need in the city. What makes you look at somewhere like Emo, Ontario, where some farmer is elected to be the mayor, and you're like, oh, well, we need a pride flag there. Why there? Unless it's just a total display of power and having you bend the knee to this, and then somebody said, oh, I can't believe a town of 1,700 that has super trucks, that advertises super trucks in August is going to say no to us. I scratch my head. If I walked in and if I scream fag in a gay bar with malice and intent to try and piss them off, and then scratch my head after and be like, why are all the gays mad at me after I just called them all fags? You kind of look like a fucking idiot, Like if I went in there with pure intent to try and piss off gay people by yelling just obscene words at them to just fucking have them irate. And then I go, well, what am I? And I pull the whole, it's just free speech. You're going to look at me like I'm a fucking moron because I went in there with the full intention to piss you off. But meanwhile, when you come into this small town that doesn't really, I'd imagine it's probably very heavily religious in those areas. Leave them be. Quit trying to fucking, you're kicking the bee's nest here. Just leave it be. You got your community. You got the biggest Pride Festival in the city of Toronto, right in your fucking province. But then there's, well, we're borderlines pride. How many people? There's probably the similar amount of people on your board as the whole fucking council, the whole town council in emo. But then Alberta comes through, and second Alberta town votes to ban pride flags. Now this is just, a bit of...
Small town in Alberta just voted to ban rainbow crosswalks and pride flags on town property. But how come all of these prairie towns are suddenly...
Mel Woods, they, them, extra senior editor. See, here's one thing that they do leave out is that they aren't banning pride. They're not banning pride. They are banning any... he gets into it, but I fucking... You know what? I'll shut up. I'll let this guy explain, and then I'll do what I do best and sit here and rip on him for whatever the hell he said, rather than trying to make my own point. Why am I sitting here trying to make my own goddamn point?
Laws determining if pride flags can be flown. Can they just do that?
Yeah.
In fact, they can. This is Barhead, Alberta. And this week, residents...
Again, why the small towns?
...voted in a plebiscite in favor of a so-called neutrality bylaw that would ban decorative and non-governmental crosswalks and flags from public property.
There you go. That would ban non-governmental... What did he say? Whatever that guy just said.
...governmental crosswalks and flags from public property. AKA, no pride flags, no rainbow crosswalks.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. So that means no other flags as well. This isn't just a direct attack. It was just across everybody. So that way, that would stop you guys from coming, and then the other guys from coming would be like, well, why can't I, because obviously the trolls are going to come out, and if you allow the rainbow flag, somebody's going to get the brilliant idea of being like, well, why can't I fly a rebel flag? Why can't I fly the rebel flag? Why can't I put a swastika on the front lawn of town fucking hall? Why can't I do that? And then it just removes this conversation, but instead you're taking it as attack directly against it's just removing the problem altogether. Nobody gets a fucking flag. Nobody's going to come around here and start stomping their feet. Well, what about my flag? I got this cool flag that says that the super trucks are going to be here August 17th right after they're in emo, and I want to fly my flag with a cool Super Duty F-350 that's jacked to the sky sitting on 46s. Why can't I fly that outside of town, the town, city, fucking whatever? Then we don't have to waste the time of town council and mayors, similar to like what happened in Peace River, where they got to sit around and be like, well, the show was too controversial. That's why we can't have it here. It just removes the conversation altogether. Nobody gets to fly their goddamn flag. Nobody's painting no goddamn sidewalks. We're not wasting tax dollars again because it's a small community. We already don't have the budget. We haven't painted the local community center since 1976. It's still this shit brown that we thought looked good back then, and we haven't even repainted that. It's like my town repaints the rink, I think, every 2 years for some fucking reason. And I can only imagine. I'd imagine the amount of money that was put into the paint. It's just a make-work project to justify wages in the summertime, because things, I would assume, slow down a little bit since the rink is closed down, not much going on. You don't need janitorial services or, Zamboni driver or any of that. So, hey, let's paint the rink again. Just a total waste of tax dollars. Similar to painting a fucking sidewalk. But, they, them. They're always fat, too. Why are they always fat? Why are they always fat? Is it because, you have the body weight of two individuals that you need to identify as two people? Why?
And Barhead follows Westlock, Alberta, which made national headlines when its residents voted in a similar bylaw almost a year ago. And there's likely going to be even more towns in Alberta trying this, thanks to a set of laws introduced by former Premier Jason Kenney's government back in 2022. That allow for these votes to even happen in the first...
You want democracy. This is a threat to democracy, and then democracy speaks, and they're upset, like, why don't they? This is what you ask for. You want inclusivity. Everybody gets their opinion heard. You want that, and now you're getting that.
First place. So in 2022, Kenney's UCP government introduced a pair of supposed democratic reform laws around citizens' initiatives, which allow registered voters to petition either the provincial legislature or their municipal councils for new laws or bylaws. Both the Westlock and Barrhead votes started with a resident, or in the case of Barrhead, a group called Barrhead Neutrality, circulating a petition to town council to ban decorative crosswalks and flags. Under Kenny's policies, once that petition gets enough votes, 10% of the town's population, each town council is required to draft a bylaw and either go through the legislative process with it by a certain date or put it to a town vote.
We're going to head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/DangerCat69, and continue this conversation and talk about some other things that are happening in the news. So if you want to join us over on the Patreon, patreon.com/DangerCat69, head on over there. We're going to try something new these next coming fucking, we're just going to get the pod in a nice place. We're really working on it. We're really trying. So if you would like to head on over and continue listening to the Uncle Hack podcast, head on over to patreon.com/DangerCat69. We're going to be discussing a questionnaire that was sent out to the Canadian Armed Forces about extremism, and also a Vancouver South politician, Harjit Sajjan, who is heading over to the Taylor Swift concert on taxpayer dollars. So patreon.com/DangerCat69. Thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next week, Thursday at 3 p.m.